Yes, I can see.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Can you see me backstage?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so just don't share with everybody what I be doing backstage, okay?
Right.
That'll be our secret.
Right. Hey, everybody. It's Dione Branch and Lisa White.
The house money mama.
I'm going to switch us for a second. All
Okay.
right. There we go. So,
Okay. That's
hey,
better.
welcome to another Water Cooler Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
Right. We're so excited to be here every week. Last week, we had some troubles with the road.
We had trouble with all kind of stuff last week. I don't know what was going
Right.
on.
Right. Closings took a little longer than expected. And so it was a
Mhm.
good thing because we were at a closing. Woo-woo. One of our clients closed last
That's
week.
right.
So it was really nice to be able to be there with her. But to get home and do the show was another thing. So
That's right.
but
Sometimes you can't get it all in.
right,
So
sometimes we just can't be everywhere. So but we missed you. We missed you guys, and so we're so happy to be here today. So, Lisa, what are we talking about today?
we talked about the good stuff today.
The good stuff. Like, oh
That's
my gosh,
right. What's
right,
positive? What's going well in the market? Some tips about some things to do to make the things in the market go and be on your favor and on your side. That's what we're talking about today.
right. The good stuff. Because I mean, in the you guys watch the news, you hear all the different things that are going on. But we
Yeah,
don't focus on the negativity. We want to focus on positive things that are.
that's right.
And so there's always a lot of positive things and that's being squashed by the negative. So this is today we want to share that. What's going on that we could share with you and let you know that everything isn't as bad as as everyone tries to make it seem. So
Right.
all right.
Absolutely.
So what's our first thing, Lisa? What's our first thing?
Well, let's see. I think we should start with what just, because everybody talks a lot about the market and everything. So maybe let's focus on that, the demand in the market. Like, for example, when we look year over year, the demand in the market actually has gone down. Because that's been one of the things that people have been talking about a lot, that it's a housing shortage, I can't find nothing, or when I do find something, there's 50 other people that's trying to get the same house that I'm trying to
Right.
get. And so then that's been a real challenge for people. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges for people is just by the market being, the way that it has. But we got a couple of people actually that are saying, and we're in agreement that we're seeing some positive changes in the economy where there's not as many, there's not as much competition, to say it like that.
Hmm.
So for
Right.
example, if last year you might have went to a house and literally I remember seeing some pictures and stuff like this. They had like 30 people waiting outside
Right.
to get into a house to view
Yeah.
it, right? But
Right.
now
So
this year is not 30. It might be about 20, maybe, 15, 20, but that's not the same as it being 30. So that's a good thing because that's showing us that we're going in the direction that we want to go as far as the market inventory, excuse me, really opening up so to be more available for people. So I
yeah.
think
So
that's one of the things. Go ahead. I'm
last
sorry.
year, during this time, I would take people out to view a house, and there'll literally be a line of people waiting to get into the house. Like
Yeah.
normally you could get to the house whenever you feel like, we schedule a time, we try to stick to a time, but
Right.
you get there and will be able to view. Um, so that was different. That was definitely different last summer, and the positive is we don't have that anymore. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and actually go view a house. If it's something that you want, and this goes for any house, if you like it, somebody else likes it too,
Somebody else likes
right?
it too. That's
Right.
right.
So And that, that's, whenever, right? That's always one thing, like
Always.
always. So when you're thinking of placing an offer, you always got to think about that as far as, okay, well, somebody else likes it too. So I got, is the right time? And it depends on like how many days on the market, things like that, on the things that we could do when we're placing an offer.
Right.
But the good thing is, if it's something that you like and somebody else like, there's not 100 people liking the same thing, and so it's more of a
Right.
chance, right?
Right. Yep.
Right. We always, Lisa and I always have our tips and tricks in order to get you your offer accepted. So we did a lot of that last summer. But
Mhm.
this summer maybe we won't have to do as much of that, but we're always ready, regardless.
Absolutely. You know what else I thought was interesting too? I don't know if I have a copy of that article. I might have to look for it. But I read an article probably about a week or two ago where they talked about in Georgia. Texas hasn't done it yet, but they are thinking about it. But in Georgia, they actually have already passed some kind of legislation that is, putting some parameters over how Airbnb. Everybody talks about Airbnb. Oh my God, Airbnb! I want to invest in Airbnb. I want to
Right.
use Airbnb. So it's such a big thing. Well, a lot of these hedge funds and some bigger companies and stuff, they came in and they bought up a lot of properties in these residential areas. And with that happening, then it kind of kicked out some of the mom and pop people, like myself, yourself. Some of us are just,
Hmm.
we invest in a property or two. We're not big people
Right.
investing, just doing something small. So they put this legislation in place now where in order for you to have Airbnb in Georgia, you have to have a primary residence there. Your primary residence has to be set up for Airbnb, and then you can do a secondary residence, like an investment property,
Yeah.
obviously, that you could Airbnb. But you can't just come in like the big companies have been doing and buy a house or a 4 unit or whatever and use that for Airbnb. They're not
Right.
allowing that
And
anymore. So,
right. On CNN, I saw an episode on CNN about this,
okay,
where a lot of corporations now were actually buying properties and using them as rentals and stuff. So
yeah,
whereas whereas in some states you weren't able to really get a house because you were always going against a large corporation, and um,
exactly.
they were talking about the white fence, and how it's the American dream to have the white fence, in front of your
Right.
home and stuff like that. And the corporations was like, well, you do get the white fence, but you rent into,
Right. But we own it. We
but
own
we
that
own it.
thing.
Right, right. So,
Thank you, big
um,
corporation guy.
right. So hope that we see that they're going in the direction for the Airbnb. So hopefully they'll do the same thing more for rentals and things as well, because that in some states was really causing a big difference as well. So
Hmm.
we'll see how that. We'll stay tuned. Let's see what happens. So
But one good thing though is that actually, excuse me, what I think will happen is because if they're not ready to do like a long-term rental situation with these houses that they bought, excuse me, they're gonna have to get rid of them.
right.
Because they had to do something when they can't Airbnb them, and if they're not willing to convert it, where they get a 12-month lease or something like that on it, they're gonna have to figure out something to do with them. I think that a lot of them are gonna come back into the market because of the fact that they can't really do what they want to do with them. And not only that, but numbers don't lie.
Right.
Airbnb is way more lucrative than a
Hmm.
12-month lease, way more lucrative. And so if they already had an idea in mind, and most companies do, they had an idea in mind of how much they would get their return on investment, and now that's going to be drastically decreased. The likelihood that they're going to stay in that investment is not very high because they're going to have to figure out something to get their return on investment. So, they're doing an adequate job of getting returns for the money that they put into the transaction. So
Right. Right.
I
So
think that'll help too, because you'll see more on the market. You see more houses coming back they're going to be sold because they don't want to hold on to them anymore. They're going to
They
have to
can.
dispose of some of their inventory too.
Right, they can't hold on to them. But the two things about it is one, if you're looking for a house to purchase, a lot of the Airbnbs, they're nice homes because they want to make
Yeah.
sure that they're nice homes that their people can always come back to. So they're normally nice homes. But then
Yep.
the other thing is, Lisa and I talked about it maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago about special lending for Airbnbs. And so if you're in an investment
That's
and
true.
Airbnb is one of the things that you wanted to look into, this
Yeah.
might be a time that you might see some of those come up for sale that you could actually purchase yourself. So
Yep. Yep. And
mhm.
you can Airbnb it.
Right.
So it's a big corporation. So
Yep, yep.
that works
So
out good. Yeah.
definitely a possibility. All right. All right.
So
What
what's some
about
more positive stuff we got going on, Dion?
right? I heard there's some money out there. Money.
Money. Money, 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 money.
Yes, yes. So there were some programs that were dried up like last year that that maybe
Yeah.
we used maybe once or twice for our clients, but gone.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
there's
One of them right after we finished their transaction. The very next month, we had somebody else that we tried to get qualified for, and they couldn't because the funds is gone.
funds are gone. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
the money's back.
Money's back.
Right. So MMRP, what is that, Lisa?
So it's micro something. It's like these different specific areas within the city of Chicago, all within the city, where they have designated that they want to populate and bring more homeowners into those areas. So they're given a grant for up to $15,000. Now the $15,000 though is only going towards your down payment. So you do want to keep that in mind. So don't think because it's 15 grand that you get to come to closing with nothing. That's not how it's going to work. You still need to have the cash in order to cover the title fees and lender fees and fund your escrow and stuff like that because they're very restricted with how they allocate the funds. The funds can only go toward lowering your down payment. So
Mhm.
if you whatever that 15,000 comes out to, whether you buy a house that's 200,000 or a house of 300,000, doesn't matter. They're going to put $15,000 toward your down payment only. But I don't know about you. If I was buying a house and I was okay with living in those areas, I wouldn't mind a $15,000 grant. I'm
Right.
just saying.
Right. Now, but the thing about it is this, I mean, it's not the whole area, but there's some good areas. So
Mm-hmm.
we were looking yesterday. So
Right. There's some places in Chatham. Mm-hmm.
Auburn Gresham
Mm-hmm.
was an area.
Yep.
Chatham was an area.
Yep.
West Pullman.
I think
I
they
know
do have
last year,
something with, yeah, I think they
right,
have something there too.
right, it was an area. So quite a few areas that you could actually participate in this program. And so, if those are some of the areas that you want, and you're working with us, and we know that this is one of the areas, all we
Yeah.
have to do is put your little address in there and be like,
Right.
right.
Please don't do
Yeah,
that. Right.
we know we can't even type that fast. Not me, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
we just put your new address in there and see if you qualify. So
Yep.
this is definitely a great opportunity for you to get some additional money back. So say
Mhm.
for instance, I know we have a couple of people, because the interest rate has gone up higher, so then the amount of money that they're able to get is actually decreased.
A little
But
less,
this
yeah.
is a way that we could kind of get you up just a little higher, right? Like, not a lot, but we can kind of get you in a maybe a little different price range,
Maybe a
right?
tad
So,
bit, yeah.
right, a little
Well,
bit,
here's the thing. Every little thing helps.
right.
Every little thing helps. So and $15,000 really is not little anyway. I mean,
Mm,
so yeah.
not by any means. Right.
And that's not to say that you can't still come up with something, to go toward it as well. If you wanted to still put something towards your down payment, you could. But the 15 grand is that's the max that they will give you,
Right.
to go towards your down payment. So if you still want to lessen it, so you have more skin in the game, you're welcome to do that. Feel
Right.
free.
Yeah. And so we've been talking about how there are less people that are out here buying, right?
Hmm.
So now where the seller last summer, a house was on the market for 3 days, like boom, gone,
Yeah.
and
Right.
we were rushing to get to the house. Now some of the houses are staying on a little longer, not real long, but a little longer, whereas the seller might be willing to give you a credit towards your closing. So
Right.
you still have to bring so much to closing, right? How much, like, was it 1.5%, or what's the percentage you have to bring to close? No, I know what it is. I can only get 6% credit for you. We can only ask for 6%
Right. So
credit
interested
from the
party
bank.
contributions, you're talking about like a FHA loan. You can only do up to 6% from interested party contributions. And even with that, they can only cover certain items. There have to be certain items, that are allowable for them to cover.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say your house is in one of those areas. You get the 15,000. You've got 6% of the closing
From the
costs.
seller cover. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Seller covers it. So that's a good way. Now we're not saying you walk away not paying anything,
Right.
but you're definitely bringing less to closing.
Right.
Mm.
And if you just think of it as, still being prepared, like for example, I usually tell people be prepared with about 4 to 5% of whatever your sales price is. So if you still have that available anyway, and you use those funds, to go toward the transaction, then now what you've just done is you've actually increased by a little bit what you would be able to buy. So you put more money into the transaction, for that down payment does still help a little bit on what you're able to buy. So you always have to have a minimum amount as your required investment. So if you exceed that, then that actually means that you'll be able to buy a little bit more. So if you have more available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
All right, all right. If you guys have any questions, let us know. I just happened like, oh, let me check and see if we had any questions.
Right. I'm glad you're on top of that.
Right, right.
You know what?
So
So I know MMRP is back, but Freddie Mac trying to do something too, girl. Did I
Freddie
tell you?
Mac.
Freddie Mac, yeah. Freddie Mac trying to get in the game, down payment assistance. They giving $2,500 at closing. The lady we just closed last week,
Mm.
she got it.
Oh, she did get it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. She
Right.
did.
So
Yep.
yeah. So
So it's a thing with Freddie Mac products. So that means that you would be in a conventional loan. So you have to qualify to go conventional. But this product allows you to be able to get still a decent interest rate, but it gives you $2,500 back at closing. You can basically use it to take down your cash to close, or you can use it if you wanted to buy down the interest rate. But that money is available to just for taking a Freddie Mac product. That's something
mhm.
that they just started doing. This probably about maybe a month, maybe 2 months ago. I think about a month and a half. Yeah. So that is something that's new and it's available to people as well.
Well,
So,
so if you buy down the interest rate, how far could you go? Like, what have you seen as far as if you were buying down the interest rate?
well, I mean, depends on where you are to begin with. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
But then also there's going to be some restrictions as how much you can spend to go towards a buy down. Like usually, if you get to a place where you spend in 2 points to buy down a rate, then we get a qualified mortgage fail, and it's going to be like, nah, you spending too much money. What you doing? It don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there usually is going to be a restriction for how much you can actually use. But again, in this market right now with where rates are, because and keep in mind, in perspective, rates are really not extraordinarily high. They really
Yes.
aren't.
Yeah.
Because in early 2000s, well, I wouldn't even say early, I would say mid 2000s, because I think, when did I start? I would have started in 2006, maybe 2007. So the mid 2000s. And the average interest rate for FHA loan was like about 8, maybe 8.25%.
Right.
So
So we all
considering,
freaking out, like the interest rate high. Last
right?
year we had some grace as being able to get
Yeah,
such low interest rate. When we go so low, then we come back up. We like, oh my god!
right.
But when it goes down, got to come back up.
Right.
Uh, so actually, so the interest rate isn't as bad. It's really the closer to the norm, right?
Yeah.
And I think in past years we've seen real high interest rates, like
Yeah.
you know. So to be where we are right now is not bad. So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So
And it's indicative of the market correcting itself and the economy rebounding. So it's, and you, when you think of it in overall terms, what it means kind of like in general is really not a bad thing.
mhm,
And again, with interest rates being where they are right now, you know, um, the differences though now between, because prices are higher too. So the differences now between, like, say for example, a 5.5% and a 6%, that can make a difference now.
right.
As far as you putting how, and this is what I why transitioning to this, because we were talking about putting a little bit of extra money down, to kind of fill in the gap with that $15,000 grant if you're, going into an MMRP area. But what happens is it actually ends up allowing you to buy a little bit more house, because with the interest rates being where they are, if you buy your rate down, now that means you're able to afford more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's a few different ways. It's not all doom and gloom. It's a few
yeah,
different ways. You can still be able to get into something nice and it be affordable, and workable for your situation.
right, right. And I think one thing we spoke about earlier was picking the right property. So,
Mm-hmm.
you're out here, you're shopping, and don't be in a rush, right? I want you to get a nice house, right? And so don't worry too much about the house as far as, oh, I have to get a house. I have to get it. Sometimes you might have already sold a house and you're trying to get into another house, but you
Mm-hmm.
got to kind of remember some of the basics and not worry about just getting into the house, but like remembering your budget,
Yep.
right? Right. You know, you set your lender and you set a budget for a reason, right? You might be approved for 500,000, but
Mm-hmm.
say I really only want to spend 300,000, and
Yeah.
you decided that budget for a reason. So don't start to find your way up to that
Right.
500, right?
I
Five
know you said
hundred,
I'm qualified for 5, but can I go to 6?
right, right, right. And we right. And we get a lot of that. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
qualified for 250, but I really like this house at 285.
right,
Well,
right. Mhm.
like we can't do that. But you remember the reason. You remember your budget, and you
Yes,
remember that you want something that you would like for a few years, right? So you're definitely going to be in the house for at least 5 years,
yeah.
and you want to be in that
Average
house. Right.
average tenancy in a home is usually between 5 and 7 years,
Yeah. So
and
you
then
want
you
to make
either
sure it's
go up or
something,
go down.
right, that you want to be in. So when we're out, we're looking at houses, we got to make sure that one, is it something that you really like? It's ready, set, go,
Mm-hmm.
you're there. Or does it show that potential? Like, oh, okay, I do see that I could do this with it and make it what I want it to be, and it'll definitely be what you want. So, don't rush too much into a house and it not be able to be what you want it to be, and then you call me up in a year.
Right.
because because I could sell it in a year, but you wouldn't get much money for it. So, especially now, right? So,
Right. Absolutely. But since we're kind of winding down, I see it's like 6:26. I think that was one of the things that I was actually going to mention as like kind of a tip, that you make sure you stick with your budget. So you
Mhm.
just covered that really well. Another thing that I was going to mention as well is paying down debt. We talked a little bit about, how different ways to be able to qualify for more, and, different ways to kind of manage the interest rates, and, what's going on with the values and prices and stuff like that, and how competitive it is, even though it's not as competitive this year as what it was last year, but it is still competitive. But another way being able to manage that is if you have some debt before you get out there and start going to
Mhm.
look, pay down some of that debt. It might just be, a credit card. It might be a $4,000 credit card, but they may be requiring you to have $100 per month payment on it, something like that. So if you get to a point where you have something like that, if you pay down that card, then now you don't have to worry about that $100 per month payment. So instead, what you can do is we can open that up to be part of the debt that we include for your home. Yay!
Yeah. Yeah.
So another thing, while we're talking about it, large purchases. A lot of times people, and not, I don't want to discourage you from buying the things that you need. However, I do want to encourage you to think about when you buy the things that you need. Like, for example, if you're debating between the car and the house, or you're saying, okay, now I need a car and I'm ready to buy a home, delay your car purchase, because you can still buy a car after a house, but it might be kind of hard to buy a house after a car, because they're more stringent with how we look at debt to income ratios and things like that. So for the house, we're going to be looking at that car, and a lot of times I've seen vehicles where, they, to me, that looked like rent that I used to pay. I mean, car notes like $800, $1,200 a month and stuff like that. That's a lot. So keeping that in mind, instead of going out and buying the car first, make do with what you have for a little while. It only take a couple of months, before you're able to find a home, close on it, then go out and buy the vehicle that you want. Because trust me, they okay with you being a homeowner over at the dealership.
Right.
But over my mortgage company, we might not be okay with you being a luxury car owner.
Mhm.
So you got to think about that and weigh it out as far as when to do what.
Right. So Lisa and I, guys, we want to share with you one other thing. Um, July 9th, which is in like almost
About 10 days.
about 10 days, yeah. We are doing a workshop. This is an in-person workshop, and we want you to register and be there. Because the thing about it is, it's a chance to meet us in person. We know
Yep.
you want to see us in person, right? But it also we're gonna have Maurice Holmes there. He's gonna talk about credit repair. So that's definitely something that we want to cover. And then we're also gonna have Adina Jackson, and she's gonna talk about financial planning and making yourself ready for to be able to purchase. So this is all the things that you need to know to get financially ready to purchase a home. So maybe you're not ready just yet, but this is a time to get in, come in, talk to us, let us discuss with you all the things that you need to know. So it's really a good time. So,
Yep.
all right.
Absolutely.
Well, we got somebody that's trying to do some bad things to our site,
Yeah. So ignore that.
but all right, so we're excited. We're
Yeah.
excited. We want to see
Well,
you
we
next.
looking forward to seeing you on the night.
Right, we want to
Woo!
see you July 9th. We'll be there. We're gonna be in Olympia Fields. So come out, see us. We enjoy it. We enjoy talking to you and just taking some time and discuss some of the things you need to know. So
Yeah. Yeah, the last one was great. Yeah, a
it
lot of
was
good information. Yeah. I learned
right.
some stuff.
Right, right. We all learned this, so that's the good thing
Yeah.
about it is you're not the only one that leaves there learning things.
All right. Yeah, we learn from each other. So definitely.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we're excited. And we're going to end today.
Hey, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.